Okay, so today we're going to work on some object study using neutrals and whites. And for those who like the technical, the subject that we're going to be using, I think, is a good one because it allows you to look at edges, creases, folds. For those who like the more abstract, there's a way that you can take this subject and you can actually turn the composition into something that's a little less recognizable. So what am I talking about? Well, we're gonna be using series of torn paper, okay? One of the easiest ways to control that neutral palette is to pick something that's quite neutral. So if you have a white background and then you have some like nice torn sheets of paper, well, it's giving you limited information and you have to interpret it at a muted level, not a saturated level. You have to keep the values close. So again, the subject's kind of forcing you in a certain direction. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna get our paper ready. We're gonna draw this out. We're gonna prep the surface, and then we're gonna get going mixing things on a very, very neutral and muted level. Also learning how to reserve the whites of the page and also using opacity when it's needed towards the end of the piece. Okay, I will see you at the demo station.
Here is the setup. I taped my watercolor paper to the board. I have my palettes, and as you can see, that little scrap of paper is going to be my subject. So now I'm going ahead and taping this to my station. You can do this in any way you want. I most likely am going to do it white on white too, so there's not heavy contrast of the dark board. So I'll put a little piece of paper behind it. It's more interesting if I fold it as well. That gives some more shadows and edges. In this video, it's hard to see the contrast that I'm seeing, but you'll see it pretty well when I'm actually mapping it out. I'm now going to lay out my paint. I'm using some simple colors, some grays, white, and I'll have some reds as well, or earth tones, so I can warm it up, and a little bit of blue so I can cool it down, also some yellow. So warm and cool that I can add to the gray mixtures. Again, it's white on white, but there's still going to be some temperature. I'm also going to grab a 4H pencil and my gum eraser so the lines are really light. Now you'll see me map out the edges with the pencil. It's just some basic drawing skills here. It's a little light, but as I paint it in, you'll see it. You want your lines light. And I did decide before I went any further that it needed a white background, so white on white. Now I'm mixing the colors. Again, a very grayish white, extraordinarily subtle at this stage. You can kind of see from the subject that I'm balancing a cooler background. That white's kind of cool, and the paper itself is just mildly warmer. So very close, but a very subtle distinction. This really trains your eyes to start seeing color in a neutral space. So at first it'll just like be white and you won't see much variation, but as you start to look at it more, you start to see more color get reflected and more subtle variation in the subject. And you can see I added a little bit of a cool red to that one area. And I'm not really doing a ton of mixing at this point. In some situations, I'm actually just using a bit of a kind of dirty, almost a dirty brush. So there's just a little residual color that's helping me along. The top is slightly more cool, more blue. And now I'm working on the edges and making more contrast. But as you can see, not using black, it's a darker gray, but there's no black there. That's too sharp. So I want to keep the values kind of close. And voila, the final product.